like the woman who got really upset because her son didn't show up, but instead her husband showed up, and she said, "What the hell is he doing here? I didn't want to see him." But it seems there's some sort of purpose to all of this, and I think that we're just not in a place as a society to really begin to even understand it. I know there are a lot of folks who have opinions about it, and that's a great place to start. But typically, when these sorts of escorts show up, of course, most of the time, we're not going to see them. And so we'll be sitting next to a loved one like we were, like, my husband and I with my mother-in-law. She escaped the Nazis. She lost all of her family to the Nazis. A few of them did escape and make it to this country, and she was very angry with any concept of spirituality. And so when it was time for her to move on, she wouldn't. She wouldn't move on. And her husband showed up, my father-in-law showed up, and we knew it was him because she began speaking to him in Polish, which is very common for people who are getting ready to go. If they have a tongue other than English, they'll revert back to the tongue of their youth. And so she shook her head and she said, "I'm not going. No, no, no." We were like, what? And it wasn't until her mother showed up, her mother who had been gassed in the gas chambers. And then the tears came and she was ready to go. So there seems to be some sort of purpose for this stuff. The problem is, oftentimes, nurses are the best. Nurses get this stuff. They are the ones who will say, who are you talking to? Who's there? What do they have to say to you? Are they showing you where you're going after you leave us here? The problem is a lot of physicians aren't so great about this. And so what they will do is they will suggest it's a hallucination. They will try to give the patient more medication. Some families, I've received emails from people who are in the process of passing. They're in the process of passing, and they say to me, "I'm not talking to that doctor anymore because my mother is here for me, and my doctor doesn't believe it." And so our society, sadly, our society is just so death phobic, and so, you can see it in our news. You can see it now in the movies and on certain television programs. It ekes out a little bit, but when it gets brass tacks down to it, even people in my profession don't know how to deal with this sort of thing.
What does society have to do, in your opinion, to turn this around and recognize what you and I are talking about as a real part of life? It's as real as being born.
Well, the first thing we have to understand is that, yes, it's as real as being born, that this is natural law, that we don't go through all of these trials and tribulations and difficulties and losses, and then when we make our transition, go sit on a cloud with a harp. The journey continues. And this sort of information has actually come from near-death experiencers, individuals who have come close to death, left their body, gone up through that tunnel, and gotten a message that you need to go back because you have a lot of things to do. You made a commitment to do some of these things, and so it's not your time yet. Or individuals who have had what are called after-death communications, where they receive in a dream, or sometimes there's a full manifestation, or it can be just an awake sensation, that their loved one is busy on the other side, that they have taken themselves to the other side and they have things that they've got to do. But in our society, I don't understand the need either, why it seems so rational, the natural law, that we would just continue the journey in the next phase of existence and continue our spiritual evolution. But we have people who really want to argue that that's bogus, even though with the deathbed vision there are certain things that can be found all around the world. And I've talked and wrote and collected and Skyped with experiencers from all around the world. And always it involves a takeaway experience. Somebody shows up, an angel, a guide, a deceased relative shows up to help the other person leave this life and make the journey to the next phase of existence. That's across the board. It's typically somebody who is able to reassure the individual. So lots of research has been done within recent years, thank goodness. But some of the earlier research showed that doctors reported patients calming down. If they were afraid of dying and death, if they had one of these experiences, they would begin to calm down, and they'd become, they'd start joking, and they'd start talking about when they get to the other side, they're going to come back and haunt people. I mean, they became just more at ease with the process of physical death. Unfortunately, of course, the doctors weren't quite so happy about what was being said. But those are just a few of the indicators. The other indicator for those who remain, there is their grief. They still have grief. They miss the person in skin, as my youngest son likes to say. They miss the fact that they can't pick up the phone and call their loved one. And so the challenge is to learn how to communicate differently. But that is consistent. The sense of grief changes. There's an awareness that life hasn't ended, that their loved one is okay, that they will soon be reunited. Also, the third situation is that for those who remain, when they have one of these experiences, it's something they remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, we have a lot of things we do throughout our lifetime,
Sure.
But these encounters imprint on them and stay with them for the rest of their lives and assist them when it's time for them to cross over.
You know, Carla, I don't know of one person that I've had the pleasure of talking to over all these years who has had a near-death experience who fears death any longer.
Oh, no, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the fear actually translates to, oh, my gosh, if I live a long time and I get really sick and they throw me in a bad nursing home, or if I am sitting on the side of a curb and I have no place to go and I'm eating cat food. I mean, the fear changes,
Yep.
but the fear of death definitely goes out the window because there's this knowing. When I saw all of my loved ones in energy spirit form, and when they went through me and they touched me, I knew for a fact that there was absolutely nothing to fear, zero. It wasn't even up for discussion anymore. Now, my husband, Mr. Meat and Potatoes Man, born and bred in Texas, he had a real hard time with what I was doing for years.
Well, wasn't he very skeptical?
He had a near-death experience.
Wasn't Michael very? Yeah, Michael was very skeptical of the work you were doing.
Oh, the last time we talked, you and I, he was so skeptical.
Yeah.
He would make fun. He would poke jokes. He would tell me, "Don't you ever, insinuate that I'm a part of this." It was that whole generation of individuals they survived the Holocaust.
Right.
And you had some who had forgiveness and they worked through it, and they're just pistols. We've got an aunt like that. She's 93, and she has done a lot of wonderful things for the community. She helped start the Houston Holocaust Museum.
Wow.
But then there are others who are very, very bitter or angry, and unfortunately Michael was raised with some of that. And so the belief was when you die, you just turn to worm food. And so when he met me, he knew I was a little, off the bend here. But when I really got into it and began talking about it publicly, that made him very, very nervous. But then he had a near-death experience. And so after that, he all of a sudden wanted to traipse off to Lilydale, New York with me to visit with the spiritualists and talk to the mediums.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there were some spontaneous experiences with mediums that nailed him pretty good, and so he's sort of thrown his hat in. He gives up now.
based on your own personal experience and the research you've done as a highly acclaimed researcher when it comes to this topic, as well as many others, where do you think we are as a society when it comes to afterlife investigation and its acceptance?
I think that the research is starting to show us that life, and there is no such thing as death, that it's one long continuum. You have folks who are researching mediums. You have folks who are going back and taking a look at the mediums of the past. You have individuals taking a look at, well, I'd like to take a look at the type of deathbed visions where somebody actually sees something leaving the body. I've got a whole chapter on that in my last book. So that's my latest venture. You have individuals who are focusing on near-death experiences, afterlife communications, precognition, and folks really, really, really are working hard at looking at this from a scientific perspective. The problem is it's very difficult to measure. So the way we measure it is in the reporting that we receive from those individuals who experience these things. So what I'm seeing is that all around the world, the reports seem to all be the same. So we've got some of that going on. Then you have the physicists who are coming forward, like Tom Campbell and a few other individuals, and who are saying, hey, physics doesn't lie. Quantum physics doesn't lie. Let's take a look at this. You know, energy can't be destroyed. We may have several levels, realms of existence going on here. And I love what Tom Campbell says. He always says, we are learning how to grow up. We have to grow up. We're growing up in public. We're learning how to clean up our stuff in public. That's what we're here for. So you have that group of individuals. But unfortunately, society is still having a real hard time catching up. I think that we're on the path because there are more and more individuals who, when they have these experiences, they do report them. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying that the percentage seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When I go to a cocktail party, I find myself in a corner with somebody sharing with me about their latest afterlife experience. That's not unusual. I'm sure you encounter that too.
Sure.
So I think that we're on the right path, but I still think we have a real long way to go. I'm very disappointed with how near-death experiences have been taken by some religions.
Okay, let's just hold it right there, because that was going to bring me into my next question. Carla, you and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back. Carla Wills-Brandon is my special guest. www.carlawillsbrandon.com. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.